Hi there, I'm Donna. Welcome to Mr. Doodlebug Journals, my new YouTube channel. I just wanted to come on and say hi to everybody and introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me. I live in upstate New York. I'm originally from Vermont. I lived there for most of my life, but moved to upstate New York back in 2018 when I met my husband. So we're not far from Vermont. We're just over the border, but I do live in New York now. Not New York City, upstate. Totally different. So I'm married. My husband's name is Eric, and he's a great guy. And I have two adult children. I have Mariah, who is 27, and Maddie, who is 22. And Mariah has two children, which makes me a grandmother. They are almost 2 and 6 months, so she's pretty busy with those babies. My channel is named Mr. Doodlebug Journals because of my grandchildren. My granddaughter, who's going to be 2, is Oakley, and I've called her Doodlebug ever since she was a little baby, so that's for her. And then Oliver, he is the 6-month-old. Mariah calls him Mr. all the time, so I just combined Mr. Doodlebug and made that my name so that they could be a part of something that I love, because they're very important to me. During the week, I work as a branch manager at a bank. I've been in banking pretty much my whole life, so I still do that, and then I journal in my free time, pretty much all the time in my free time, because that's what I do. I started junk journaling back in 2021. My mom introduced me to Miss Paint a Lot, and I have followed her pretty religiously ever since. She is my definite go-to in all things junk journaling. I just love her. She's not only an amazing teacher, but she's also a wonderful person, and I've learned a lot from her. So that's kind of how I got my start. I had hurt my back at that time, and it was really, really nice to have a hobby that I could do. I could still do that, even though I was laid up for a couple of years, and junk journaling kind of got me through a hard time and just became really important to me. So I decided to create this YouTube channel so that I can share my love for junk journaling and share ideas that I have, and have people share ideas that they have, and kind of have a community of junk journals. So junk journalers, not junk journals. So that is me in a nutshell. I have created a folio that I want to share with you. So the first thing I'm going to do in my video is share what I've created. And then I'm going to today show you how to make the base of that folio. And then in future videos, we'll go ahead and decorate it and get it ready for everyone to enjoy. But I hope that you like my channel and that you'll support me and subscribe and leave comments and like my videos. And I hope that we can have a lot of fun together. So the first thing I'm going to do is walk you through my prototype. So this is the folio that I built as an experiment, and then I liked how it turned out, so I decided that this would be my first project to share with you all. It has a 2-inch spine, so it's a pretty big folio. It's nice and full, and it has 2 sides to it. So the main portion of the folio, what holds everything together, is going to be this main section on either side of the 2-inch spine. So that's where it starts. And then it folds out several times. I'm actually going to, it's kind of a monster, so I'm going to fold up the left-hand side while I show you the right-hand side. So in this portion, there is a flip on the top. just going to pull it over a little bit so I can make sure that you can see. So this flips up and this flips out. And then inside the pocket, there is a little notebook that I made using coffee dyed paper. So that's for extra journaling throughout the folio. I'm considering putting in 2 little notebooks here, but I'm not really sure yet because I don't know how bulky it's going to get. So I'll leave those in there for now, but if it becomes too bulky, I'll have to take those out. So that is that. And this folds down. See, it's pretty bulky with that in there. This page has 2 small tags up here. And then in this pocket, we have a journaling card, a piece of the ephemera that I backed with lined paper, so you can write on that. This journaling card is also backed with lined paper. And then I've got 2 little portraits that are lined with lined paper as well. So the papers that I'm using, another junk journaler that I really like to watch is Debbie from Ink and Page. And Debbie not only has tutorials on how to junk journal, but she also makes digitals. So all of these papers come from Debbie, and it comes from her collection. It's called Keepsake Collage. And she had some freebies on her website. So she oftentimes offers free digitals, which is awesome. So at first I printed those all off, and then she had a full-size kit on Etsy that I purchased. So that's what I'm using for this folio. So again, it's Debbie from Ink and Page, and it's her Keepsake Collage kit. So hopefully I can figure out how to link that under my video. I'm not the most technical person in the world, so it's going to be a little bit of a work of, my daughter's going to have to help me figure out how to do that. So I will try to do that for you so that you can look at the papers and see if it's something that you're interested in, but you can really use any paper that you want to create this. So on this page, we have 2 window pockets, and we just have 2 lined journal cards. So that's what's there. And then I just put tabs on them to make it easier to get them in and out of the pockets. And then it opens up again. And on this page, I made a pocket, and I put a pocket on the pocket and a pocket on the pocket on the pocket. So in this part, we have just a plain journaling card with one of the portraits that come with the kit that Debbie has on Etsy. So not only does she have digital papers, but she also has ephemera, pockets, journaling cards, all kinds of stuff that you can use in your journal. Personally, I like to make my own pockets and envelopes and flips and all of that stuff. But if you're brand new to junk journaling and this is your first project, she does have a lot of stuff in her kits that you can use. So this is one of the papers from the pack, and I just put this gentleman on there, and then I lined the back for a journaling card. So that is in this pocket. Then in this one, I made 2 small little tags using the paper pack, and I lined them with the lined paper. This is in Debbie's kit. And then I used some sari silk that I dyed with tea-dyed oxide spray from the Distress line. So that's what that is. And then I took this little butterfly from the ephemera and I lined it so you could write on there as well. And I just put that in this front pocket. Then on this page, I made a framed pocket. So this is one of the portraits from the kit, and I just realized that I also used her on the cover, so I must really like her. but there's a ton of different portraits that you can use in this kit. So I just made a framed pocket. I put acetate in the window, and then I made this journaling tag, which doesn't want to come out. Guess I need to cut that down a little bit. I love to make masterboards. It's how I use up my scraps. So I have a ton of scraps from this project because I've been trying to perfect it, and I've made several folios. So I just took and cut my scraps and then just made a little masterboard and cut it up into tags. So that's what that is. Just gonna leave that out because I need to cut it down. This page, Debbie also has a kit on Etsy that has templates of different pockets and tags that you can make. So this is one of her templates, and I really like it. It's a perfect size for my journals. So I just used the template, traced around some of the design paper from her pack, and sewed around it and made a pocket. And I filled that with a journal card that I made out of cardstock, just cream colored card that I colored with Distress Oxide Tatter Rose spray. And I put it through my embossing folder, and I think that that looks really elegant and pretty. I like how those come out. And then I just backed it with some plain cream card. So there's that page. And then this page, I just made a belly band and again used one of these cards that I just showed you. So I just made circles out of some of my scraps and made a belly band out of that. And then on the last part of the right-hand side, you're going to attach 2 envelopes. So these are 5x7 card envelopes that I had. I put masterboard on those, and then I filled both of my pockets with these little folios to journal in. So each one has one of those, and then on the backs of the flips, I just made little belly bands and put some of the ephemera from the kit in there. I used one of her journal cards, just backed it, and then I used this little envelope just to stuff in there. And we could put journal cards in here, or you could put ephemera or whatever you want in there. And I just tucked those behind my belly band. Same thing over here. I used one of the portraits. I backed it with lined paper, and then I just put one of the envelopes in here. So that is what the right-hand side of the folio looks like. So it just kind of flips. Oh, I'm missing pages, sorry. This page is just a slit pocket page. And again, that does not want to come out of there. It's like glued in. Let me work that a little bit. Stuff my bone folder down there and see if I can get it loose. That's not supposed to be like that. There we go. All right. So again, that's just a piece of the masterboard that I used and made a card out of that. So that should fit in there better now. This is just a little folio that I made out of the paper, and I put coffee dyed paper on there. Put that in this pocket, and just 2 little tags that I made and backed with the lined paper. So there's that. We've also got this page, which has a little belly band here that I decorated with the ephemera from the kit. I made this little folio, put that under the belly band, and then here we have another one of those embossed cards that I like so much. So that is it for the right-hand side. So it's pretty big. I didn't really talk much about my cover, but on my cover, I made another frame with an acetate window and just put one of the portraits in there. It's the same one I used. I didn't realize that. I also took a saying from the ephemera and put that on here. One thing I didn't mention is I inked around everything with Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. So that's what I use to ink my edges on everything. And then we have our left-hand side. And on the one that we're going to make together, we're going to have two of these flip pockets. But this one I did a little differently. So I made this little opening pocket, and I just made this ephemera to hide the closure. So these are brads, and they go through to the back, so I wanted to cover those up. And then I put a pocket here, and I made this little notebook for more journaling. It's just coffee dyed paper torn and a flip notebook for that. So that's what that looks like. And this just wraps around here and wraps up. Then we have this page. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to decorate this yet. It's getting pretty fat, so I haven't put any more pockets on here yet. But what it is it's just a flip, and on the back there's a belly band. And I made this journaling card. Just has the one of the butterflies from the kit on it, and I just backed it with lined paper. So that goes behind this belly band. Oh, and behind the belly band, I decorated this with some of my scraps. I just put a masterboard on there. So that's that one. And then on this page, this is a stack envelope pocket. So I made 3 envelopes. This one is 5 inches, this one's 4 inches, this is 3 inches. And I took and made journal cards for my masterboard. I always say message board, my masterboard, and filled them with those journaling cards. Backed them, of course, and then put them in my pockets. And this is just a closure, and I used a Velcro dot, and I just put a piece of the ephemera on the front. And I was wondering why that looked funny. That doesn't go there. And then behind the pockets, you have another journaling card made with the embossing folder. So that's that. Just gonna flip that back down. And then on this page, I just made a collaged pocket. So I just took some of the papers and collaged it with some of the ephemera. I was concerned that it was getting a little chunky, so I wanted to do something flat. And then I just put this little journaling spot in here. I thought that was cute with the ephemera. So that's that. And then I want to make sure you can see everything here. On this page, I made another pocket. I just kind of did a collage type of pocket, and I did a little pocket down here, which I think I'm going to decorate this. I think it's too plain. But on this, I took a piece of the ephemera, I lined it, and I also took another butterfly from the ephemera. This one I embossed with clear embossing powder, and I like how that looks, and I still need to back it. I haven't done that yet. And then I just, inside of the pocket, I wanted something kind of thin so that I didn't get any more bulk. So I just took some of these journal cards from the kit and backed them with the lined paper, stuffed them in that pocket. This page is 3 pockets, so each pocket has a tag for journaling. They're backed, and this one has one of the portraits on it, just on some of the design paper. So I just used a piece of ephemera on each and made those with tabs so that you can kind of tell that there's something in there to pull out. I think that the tab gives you the idea that you need to pull something out of there. So that's that. And let's see here. I think that is it for that, except for these. So this is a coin envelope, and it has a journaling card in there for extra journaling. It's just backed with cream card. And I made this little pocket out of ephemera. This ephemera I made these, and then this is a piece of packing paper that is embossed. So I used that, and then I just backed these little tags from the kit. And on the back of here, I made another pocket, and I liked her, so I backed it and put it in here for a little more journaling. And then this piece flips out. So on each piece, I made a collaged pocket, and I filled it with some of the little ephemera from the kit. So I just backed them so that you could journal on them. I love these portraits. Normally, I don't like people in my journals. I always kind of found them creepy, but I think these are beautiful. I don't get creeped out by these people, so I love it. And this all comes in that kit as well. And then we've got this side. So again, that is just, I really like how that looks. It's a piece of packing paper, and it's just embossed, and I think it comes out really nice. It makes for a nice cluster, it gives it texture and just gives it something different. And then again, we've just got the ephemera in those pockets. And so that is it. That's what we're gonna make. Today I'm going to start by making the base. And then, as I said, we'll go ahead and we'll decorate it and, you know, make our pockets and such. I did put a nice satin ribbon on here to tie it shut. And then I backed the back and I stitched around that. I do quite a bit of stitching in my journals. So that is the project that we're gonna do. So I hope you like it. This is just some lace that I got at Hobby Lobby that I put behind my frame. I thought that looked really pretty on there. So that's what we're gonna do. I hope you guys follow along and join in. Like I said, you can use any paper that you want to. This is what I've chosen, but whatever makes you happy and fits your creativeness, that's what I want you to go ahead and use. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to grab the papers that we're going to need and the equipment that we're going to need to start building the base. All right, so I just wanted to show you what you're going to need for this project. So you're going to need a scoreboard. You're going to need your paper trimmer. And I use two different types of paper trimmers, but this is my go-to. I use this one most of the time. It's my Tim Holtz Tonic Studio cutter, and then I also have the guillotine style that I use some. So those are the cutters that I use. So you're going to need something to cut your paper with, and you're going to need a scoreboard to start the project. You're going to need your favorite distress ink. I use Vintage Photo. I don't know where it went. Here it is. So I like Oxide. And I use a lot of Vintage Photos, so that's what I'm going to use. And you're going to need a dauber to put your ink on your paper. You're going to need a corner rounder, so that's that. And you're going to need two types of glue. You're going to need, I use My Sweet Petunia glue press, and in my glue press I use Art Glitter Glue. I just get a big bottle of that and keep filling my little bottle. So I use that. That glue sets a lot faster than this glue. So this glue I use if I need something to be able to be moved around a lot. So This is the clear glue that I use, and I'll kind of show you what I mean by moving stuff around and kind of how the different glues work. I also have my towel. I always have a towel ready, and you're going to need a bone folder. And then the last thing that we're going to need today, I think, I made these ahead of time because it's a little bit time consuming. I covered the spines of my folio with paper. So I make, I guess you could call them spine covers like you would for a journal. And this is what I use to cover my spines. And I'll show you how I do that. So I cut them and inked them and got them ready ahead of time so that we have them all ready to go. This is 2 covers, and this is going to cover our 2-inch spine. So I made 2 inches plus 1/2 inch on each side, so it's 3 inches in total. There's 2 of these. This is for my 1 inch, and so there's a 1/2 inch on each side, making this piece of paper 2 inches. So you're going to need 2 of those. You're going to need 6 1/2 inch covers, and this paper measures 1.5, and then it's scored at each 1/2 inch increment. I did not tell you the length of the folio is going to be 8.5. So you want to cut your paper down to 8.5. And then you're going to need 4 of these little ones, which are a 1/4 inch spine, and then there's a 1/4 inch on each side. So I just cut my paper down to 3/4 inch, and then at each 1/4 inch increment, I scored. So you are going to need some of those. You don't have to do this. This is totally optional. Some people use washi tape to cover their spines. Some people don't cover them at all. It's all what your preference is on that. The folio is going to be built off cream card, and I'm using 8.5 by 11, and this is a heavy duty cardstock. So I believe this is a 250 GSM cardstock. I didn't keep the wrapping that it came in, but I believe I got it from Amazon, and I believe it's 250 GSM. So it's very thick. It's going to really hold up. And for any base, I like to use, like for covers, I'll use cereal boxes, or I'll use heavy cardstock, something that's really going to last. So we're just going to go ahead and take 2 pieces of the cardstock, and I'm going to ink around them real quick. And then we're going to attach them together to make our base. That's the first thing we're going to do. And if you're new to junk journaling, we use ink to cover the whites of the inside of the paper. So it kind of ages the paper a little bit, makes it look more professional. So that's why I'm doing this. And it's my second piece. Actually, is that 2 pieces? No. I'm just going to ink around this real quick. Put it all the way around that. We will touch up the inking throughout the process here. And I'm going to use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together to make a longer section. And you just want it to be fairly straight, and you want it to be lined up good. And like I said, art glitter glue really takes quickly. So once you get it on there, it's on there. There's not a lot of wiggle room. So for some things I like that, and then for some things I like to be able to move it around so that I can position things. So we're going to go ahead and start making our score lines. First, we're going to make the right-hand side of the folio. So our first score line is going to be 6 inches. So we're going to go ahead and score that in. Then we're going to have our 2-inch spine. So I'm going to go to 8 inches and make our 2-inch spine. Just quickly going to fold that up so I can get it back in my scoreboard. And you just want to make sure that it's straight. Sometimes when I use the scoreboard, my score lines aren't always straight. So I just line up the top and bottom and make sure that it's straight, and then crease that in. One thing that's really important in this folio is you need to make sure that your score lines are very flexible. So because I cover them with cardstock, they get thick, and you want to make sure that you can really bend them. So I like to go ahead and just take my bone folder and just really crease in those score lines so that we can move things around. And I like to just do it both ways. And then once I put my covers on, I also go in and really work them so that they're flexible. So that's what I'm doing here. After you do 6 inches, 2 inches, you're going to go ahead and you're going to score another 6-inch piece. And then you're going to want a 1-inch spine, so I'm going to go to 7 inches on that. So again, I'm just going to fold in my creases and just sharpen them up a little bit. Make them flexible. And make sure that you're lined up fairly even. Really work those in. Make sure that we're straight so we don't have a crooked folio. Perfect. And then we need a 5 3/4 inch piece. Hopefully this is big enough. So I'm just gonna line it up at the edge of my scoreboard, and then we're gonna do 5 3/4 inch. And we're going to do a 1/2 inch spine, so I'm going to go to 6 1/4. And then we're going to have this little tail. So I just want to get my 1/2 inch folded in. Fold it down. And then I'm just going to go ahead and work it this way as well. That's really worked in there well. I'm going to get this out of the way for a minute. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another piece of cardstock to this end. Just line that up real good. Make sure you're lined up on the top and bottom. As straight as you can get it. I'm not the best at making things straight. Okay, so we're back at our 1/2 inch crease. And I'm going to get our scoreboard again. so far we have a 6-inch piece, a 2-inch spine, another 6-inch piece, 1-inch spine, 5 3/4 inches, 1/2-inch spine, and now we're going to make another score line that's 5 3/4. And top of that's a little wonky. Then we're going to want another 1/2-inch spine. So that's at the 6 1/4 inch. Just going to fold that in. That is not straight at all. There we go. Still pushed out a little bit. So we want to make sure that that's good and lined up. Put them in this way as well. That score line is a little wonky. Just going to kind of line that up. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Still a little funny. All right, so I just need to look at my design here real quick. So after the 1 inch, I have 5 3/4. I have a 1/4 inch. I have another 5 3/4. I have a 1/4 inch. And now we're going to make another 5 3/4. So we're going to add another piece of paper. Have a little glue seepage there, so I want to get that off. So we're doing another piece that's 5 3/4. So I just want to make sure that's lined up good on the edge. And then we're going to go 5 3/4. We're going to do a 1/4 inch spine, so we're going to score it 6 inches. I'm just going to fold those in. These little spines are pretty hard to work with. They don't move as good as the big ones. So you kind of gotta mess with them a little bit. creased in real good. Wasn't quite straight. These take a little bit of time, these 1/4-inch ones. You really gotta work them. All right. And then we're gonna put our last score line in. Make sure it's lined up real good at the edge. And again, that one is going to be 5 3/4. That out of the way. And this is the end of the right-hand side, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off. And keep that piece. We might need it for somewhere else. So we have 5 3/4. We have a 1/4 inch. We have 5 3/4. We have a 1/2 inch. We have another 5 3/4. And we have another 1/2 inch here. And then we have 5 3/4. And we have a 1 inch. We have a 6 inch. So as you can see, this just folds up. This is the right-hand side. The 2-inch spine is the middle. And then this is a 6-inch piece. So this part right here is the base. So this is what we're gonna work on next, decorating, after we build the folio. So this is kind of what it looks like once you get it constructed. And I just have to grab one thing. All right, so I just went and grabbed 2 5x7 envelopes that I have. They're just card envelopes. And these are going to make pockets. So this is going to be our pocket. And these are both going to be attached to the very last piece. Now, I fold these inside out because I want my opening for the pocket to be so that I can pull something out of it. If I have it like this, I mean, I guess it would still work, but it kind of makes more bulk. So I do it this way. So I'm just going to line that up at the bottom. And make sure it's on there nice and straight. Lined up good at the bottom. And I'm just going to glue that down. Not going to push it all the way down yet because I want to make sure it's in the right spot. And it is. So we're just going to glue that down. And then we're going to take our second one, and that is going to layer up over the top. And we're just going to glue that down. So now at the end, we have two pockets that flip out. Just gonna ink where I hadn't inked in the beginning. Real quick. Like I said, we'll ink it at the end too, but I like to ink as I go. So this folds in, folds up into your spines. And that is the right hand side. Now I'm just going to show you how I cover these a couple of times, and then I'm going to do the rest off camera because it's pretty time consuming. But I just want to show you how I do it. So we're going to take our 2-inch pieces. For this, I want to be able to move it after I get it on there. So I'm going to use my clear glue. This is Fabri-Tac. Actually, I think this bottle is Beacon 3-in-1, but I usually use Fabri-Tac. So I like to just push over these seams so they're not in the way. And then I just line them up as close as I can get to being on the fold. So just want to make sure that it's straight. This one is not. That looks pretty good. Press it down real good. And then we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. I use a pretty generous amount of glue. And I'm going to line that up on your seams again. Just needs to go that way a little bit. And I just moved that. Yep, that's right on the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and smush that down. Then your tabs, you're just going to glue down, and I'm going to use my art glitter glue because it grabs quicker and the dry time's not quite as long for those. So I'm going to glue those down. Grab my towel. So that's good for that one. So today's pretty cloudy here in New York. It's been a really gross spring so far. All it's done is rained and been cloudy and cold. Everybody's ready for spring. Hopefully it's coming this way. Just gonna let that piece dry for a minute, and while that's drying, we're gonna put on the 1 inch. And then after that, you guys can go ahead and put them on your own. Just kind of time consuming and kind of boring to watch me do it, but I just want to make sure you know how I put these on. And again, you can use washi tape. You can use whatever way you choose to cover these. I just think it kind of looks like a book binding, so I'm into that at the moment. Just gonna line that up. Push that down. You just want to be careful when you're using the clear glue, the Fabri-Tac, because it does move. So sometimes you'll have it right where you want it and then it'll move on you. And it takes a minute to grasp, so just be careful of that. Little glue coming out of the bottom. Go ahead. I'd love to know where you're from, so leave me a comment. Introduce yourself and let me know where you're from. It's always fun to see where everyone's watching from and kind of getting to know a little bit about each of you is wonderful. So there's that one. We're just going to glue down the tabs. Just rub that down so that the glue takes. And then we're just going to glue down these. Just make sure that they're adhered to the cardstock before we start moving them too much. Now, very important, because these are on the spines, they need to be able to move. So every time you put one on, you have to work it in. So what I mean by that is it's not gonna want to do what you want it to do right away because it's thick, because you're using cardstock on a heavy card. So I always take a few minutes and really work the edges. And it takes some time. That's why I'm not going to do this on camera for each one, because it's kind of time consuming and boring to watch. But you really want to make sure that those seams are sharp. I guess is the only word I can think to describe what I'm talking about. But you want to make sure that they are going to move. And you can see how hard it is to get them to move without working them. So again, I just go ahead and work them both ways. And you do want to make sure that your glue is pretty dry. So if you can let it set for a couple minutes, that's probably good. Just really burnish those in. Make sure they're nice, crisp seams. And this kind of bunched up a little bit. I don't like that, so I'm going to squish it back down. And I think that's just because it wasn't dry all the way underneath yet. So it is better if you can wait a couple minutes. And I'm just going to work this one in. And we already went this way, but I'm just reinforcing it. Just going to squish that paper down again so that it's attached to the cardstock and doesn't look bulky. And that's all I'm going to do for now, but I will tell you that several times throughout making the folio, I'll go in and work these seams so that it's pretty seamless when we're ready to use it. So just to recap what we have for the right hand side, we have a 6-inch panel, a 2-inch spine, another 6-inch panel, a 1-inch spine, a 5 3/4 inch panel, a 1/2-inch spine, another 5 3/4 inch panel, another 1/2-inch spine, 5 3/4, a 1/4-inch spine, and the last piece is 5 3/4, and then we added our envelopes for an additional flip. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and cover these 3 spines, and then when we come back, we're going to go ahead and build the left-hand side. All right, so I just went ahead and I covered all of my spines and I worked them in. I'm going to work them in a couple more times because they're still a little bit tight. So I'm just gonna really let them sit and let the glue dry before I do it again. So that is the left-hand side in a nutshell. Okay, so we're gonna get to work on the left side. So I'm going to add another piece of cream card. And again, the papers are 8.5 by 11, thick, heavy cardstock. And I'm just gonna line them up. Oh, I also inked around the folio again while I was off camera. You can only watch someone ink so many times. So because I'm using the art glitter glue, it's already taken, sealed down, so clean off my nozzle. I'm just gonna put some more glue on there because it didn't really stick very good. It's really well stuck down before we start scoring. And I'm just going to go ahead and ink around this piece real quick. today is Good Friday. I don't know if everyone has plans for Easter. We're just having a small dinner with my family. My mom and my dad and my daughter hopefully is coming. My older daughter doesn't live close, so she won't be able to be here with the kids, but they're coming to visit in a couple weeks. All right, so we need our scoreboard then. I'm just gonna turn this upside down so that we have an easier time of scoring it. You want to make sure you're right up to the edge of your scoreboard. And then, so we have one piece that's 6 inches. And now, where did I put my, so it keeps moving a little bit. So I just want to make sure that that's good. I'm just gonna try to hold that while I do this. And we're gonna score at 6. So 2-inch spine, 6-inch panel. Then we want another 6-inch panel. So I'm going to go to 12. Score there. Okay. So we're not going to have a spine here. I'm just going to go ahead, burnish that down because it's almost on the where I glued the other piece of card on, so it's a little bit thick. So we just want to burnish that down good. We have a 6-inch piece and then another 6-inch piece. And on this 6-inch piece, I'm just going to put a check mark so I'm sure that I put it in the right spot. We're going to make a flip. So, get my ruler. We want it to be just about as big as the panel. So just about 5, if we do 5 3/4, it'll give us a little room on that end. But we also want a tail to put the flip down. Do I actually want that? I actually think we're gonna go with 5 7/8. So I'm just going to score a piece of card at 5 7/8. Then I'm going to move it over to 6 so that I don't have to do math. And I'm going to do a 1/2-inch tab. The score line. So there's a scrap that we'll keep handy in case we need it. And we're just gonna crease in our tab. Smush it down real good. I'm actually gonna go ahead and cut off the edge of this, just so it's not so bulky at the corners. make it go both ways so that it's nice and flexible. And I'm going to go ahead and ink around it. You might see that, so I'm going to ink there. A little bit more ink. Just go around the flap. And then we're going to attach it right on the seam. And we want to make sure that this piece can still bend in, which it can. So that's a pretty good fit. So I'm going to use my clear glue just so that I can move it if I need to. And then I'm going to put it right up to the crease. And that looks pretty good. So we just want to make sure that this can close, which it can, and that this can close, which it can. So we're good with that. And I'm just going to pull it over just a teensy bit. Get any excess glue off of there. Okay, so that flips over. That looks good, and that still shuts good. And we're going to go ahead and add another piece of cardstock to the end. Just put some ink on the cardstock before I put it down. I think that's probably easier to do. Then we're going to go ahead and attach this. Pretty good. Let's see if we have any excess glue. Okay, and I'm just going to flip it upside down again so that we can score. This next panel, all right, I just have to walk myself through this real quick to make sure I'm doing it right. I have 2 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches with a flap, and then our next piece is going to be 5 7/8. First, we're going to put a 1/2 inch spine. Oops, just went wonky. Just going to fold that in so that we can go ahead and line up the 5 7/8. And that is really crooked, so I'm going to go ahead and really push that in so that we're straight. one over. Again, making sure that it's straight. Okay, now we're going to go on that line. And we're going to make sure that we're lined up good here. And we're going to go 5 7/8. And then we're going to do a 1/4 inch. Oops, that's not a 1/4 inch. Sorry, guys. Got to move that over to 6. And then do a 1/4 inch. So we're going to really want to score that one in. And then make sure that we use that piece instead of the first score line that we put in. There's our 1/4 inch. Make sure that it's on the right line. And then our last piece is going to be another 5 7/8 piece. So we're going to score at 5 7/8. Oops, that didn't work right. All right, let me just make sure I have everything that I need. For our left-hand side. So we have the 2-inch spine. We have a 6-inch panel. We have the flip. We have another 6-inch panel. We have a 1/2-inch spine. We have a 5 7/8 and a 1/4 inch spine, and another 5 7/8. So that is it for the left-hand side, with the exception of one thing that we have to do. So we're just going to go ahead and cut this off. I need a new blade. So I'm just going to cut this with scissors because my blade is shredding my paper. And usually, if it starts doing that, it'll keep doing it for the whole cut. Okay. And it's okay that it looks like that because it's going to be covered. All right, so we've got 6 inches. We've got our flip, 6 inches, 5 7/8, and a 1/4 inch. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's right. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our last piece of cardstock and we're going to cut this at 4 1/4 so that it's half. I did not get that straight at all. So I'm going to do that again and keep that for scrap. You want them to line up evenly. So I don't know how I messed that up so bad. off a little bit, but better than the other one. So then with these two, we're going to go ahead and glue them together. Line them up the best you can. It's not going to matter too much because they're going to be covered with cardstock, so we can go over a little bit to make them even, because they aren't quite the same. I don't know why. I don't seem to be able to make that cut. I mean, we could go ahead and trim this a little bit, just with scissors. Same thing up here. It's just a little bit. Very little bit. Okay. Let's make sure that's down. And we're going to measure this last panel. And it looks like it's about 5 3/4. Once we score it in. That's not what I want. I want my scoreboard. And we're going to make a little tail. That's a 1/2 inch. That's what's going to attach it. I'm just going to fold that in. And then we want this to be a little bit shy of 5 3/4. So I'm going to go 5 5/8 because we don't want it up tight. And then we're going to do one more piece. That's 5 5/8. And that is it for the scoreboard. That's our last piece. So I'm going to put that away. And I'm just going to cut this down with scissors real quick. Bit that's off. These aren't my favorite scissors. They don't cut straight. I like my Tim Holtz scissors. Those are in the other room. All right. So this is going to go. Let me just get this out of the way. I just want to show you what we're making real quick again. This piece is this. So this flip out. And then this will make another day. The envelope, the coin envelope will make another day. So that's what that is. So we're just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna ink around this edge. Here. Do the inside here because you might be able to see that when we cover it. And do the outside. Get a little more ink. this side. Perfect. We have another scrap. I got these daubers at Amazon and they do not last. I'm not happy with them at all. So I'm going to be in the market for some new daubers. They shed terribly. So this piece is just going to go on the bottom here. And I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac because I want to be able to move it if it's not perfect. So go ahead and put some glue down. And then go ahead and push it down. I have some major seepage going on. I think I put a little too much glue on. But I really want to make sure before I attach it fully that it's lined up right. So that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to squish that down. Do it on both sides. And I just want to make sure that it's going to fold in properly. And it does. This flap goes this way, this goes this way, this goes here. I need to work that crease. And then it folds up like this. So that is pretty much what it looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and, again, off camera, I'm going to put my covers on and I'm going to work in all my creases and then I'll be back. Okay, so off camera, I took some time. I glued down my spines for my left-hand side and I worked them a little bit. This 1/4 inch one is really giving me a hard time, so I need to let the glue really sit and then I'm gonna work on it some more before we do the next part. But like I said, you have to really work them and you have to play with it to get the right fit. It's just, this one is not cooperating at all. So I'll work on that some more before we do our next video. I just want to go through it one more time. So our left-hand side, we have our 2-inch spine here, our 6-inch piece. We have another panel that's 6 inches with a flip. We then have a 1/2 inch spine. We then have 5 7/8 here. Then we have our nasty little 1/4 inch spine that is giving me such a hard time. We have another piece that's 5 7/8. And then at the end, we have this 4-panel flip that we're going to decorate. So that is it for that side. Boy, that's really giving me a hard time. I might even take that off and redo it because it's not wanting to cooperate. So I'll tell you what I did on our next video. So that goes there. And then I might be able to make that work. I just have to play with it. But I won't bore you with that. Our right-hand side, we have our 2-inch spine, a 6-inch panel, a 1-inch spine, 5 3/4 inch, a 1/2 inch spine, another panel that's 5 3/4, another 1/2 inch, another 5 3/4, and then our last one is going to be 5 3/4 with the 2 envelopes flipping out at the end. So that is what we're going to do for today. That is the construction of the base. Our next video, we're going to start decorating. We're going to decorate these two panels, which are the center. So there's a 6-inch panel, 2-inch spine, 6-inch panel. This is the center of the folio. So that's what we're going to go ahead and decorate the next time. So we just fold it like that, fold it like that. It flips up like this. And that is the construction of our folio. So I just really want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm very new at this, so hopefully my videos will get more interesting as we go. Give me any feedback that you have in the comments. I would love to hear it. And I will see you guys real soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.